to this week's edition of Inter-University Debate. Inter-University Debate is brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV. Inter-University Debate airs every Thursday on Civic Space TV on YouTube from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. I'm your moderator for the Inter-University Debate. My name is Gideon. I'm an advocate with Brandmark Advocates, and I'm a lecturer at University. This week, we are hosting Makerere University Business School. First of all, I would like to thank Makerere University Business School and also congratulate them upon making it to this level of the debate, and that is the quarterfinals. Other universities that also made it to this level of the debate includes Makerere University, Kabale University, Islamic University in Uganda, Uganda Pentecostal University, Kampala International University, Barrow University of Science and Technology, Kumba University, Uganda Christian University, Cavendish University, Ositema University, and Uganda Matters University, because those that have made it to the quarterfinals will battle each other in the inter-university debate. Will Makerere University Business School make it to the next round? We will find out. Our topic for today is, have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and challenges for gender equality in Uganda? Without wasting time, I would like to introduce my panelists for today, who are all students from Makerere University Business School. So I will introduce your name and then give you a chance to give further introduction of yourself. In case you're holding any guild position, feel free to mention it in your introduction. But don't forget with the course that you're doing. I will start with the first panelist, who is a lady who represented Makerere University Business School during the inter-university debate and made Makerere University Business School qualify for the quarterfinals. Ms. Mirembe Ritah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Gender. My name is Mirembe Ritah, student at Makerere University Business School, pursuing a bachelor in Human Resource Management. Yes, I'm a writer and a speaker. Public speaking. I'm glad to be on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ritah. Our second panelist for today is Mr. Niringiye. Sam, you're welcome to introduce yourself. Sam, kindly unmute and then introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is Sam Niringiye. I'm an accounting student of Makerere University pursuing a Bachelor of Commerce. I'm the Teach for Uganda campus ambassador, and I'm the Debate Society president. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sam. We are glad to have you for the stage of the debate. Our third panelist for today's debate is Mr. Kalema Gideon Joseph. Joseph, you're welcome to introduce yourself.
Thank you, panelists. You'll excuse me tonight for the mask because I'm having issues that I had aired out to our first mic checker. Gideon Joseph Kalema, a student of Makerere Business School, pursuing a bachelor's in entrepreneurship. I am the president of the Rotary Club of MUBS, and furthermore, I do work with About Property Services, a company that deals in management of property.
Yes, thank you, Gideon. You were. I'm now moving to Mr. Luswata Simon. Simon, you're welcome to introduce yourself.
Very good afternoon to you all. My name is Simon Peter Luswata. I'm pursuing a Bachelor's of Business Administration at MUBS in year 3, a finance major. And I think some forgot to mention that he's the Debate Society president and the most decorated debater in the institution. And myself and Sam are the reigning champions of the Uganda National Debate Championship. Thank you.
So as earlier on mentioned, our topic for today's debate is, have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and challenges for gender equality in Uganda? So to introduce this topic, As we know, Uganda is a signatory to several international conventions that talk about gender equality. And Uganda has domesticated some of these conventions, and as well as ensuring the different rights under Article 4 of the Constitution that talks about gender equality. I will leave the legal framework at that because I would like the panelists to unpack it in their discussion. So today, years down the road, we sit down today and evaluate. The Constitution came in 1995. We have signed all these conventions. Now, have we attained gender equality? What are the different opportunities and what are the challenges that are being encountered in the fight for gender equality in this country? I'm going to give the panelists a chance to give us their opening remarks in 3 minutes each before we dive into today's debate. Let me start with Mirembe Ritah. Ritah, it's time for you to give us your opening remarks.
Thank you very much. So the topic of discussion today is, have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and challenges for gender equality in Uganda today? So basically, my understanding of gender equality is that we are looking at having equal opportunities. We are not looking at being the same as men because it's genetically impossible, but we are looking at having the equal opportunities, equal access to resources as men do. That's what women are fighting for, and that's what advocates are fighting for. So that's what I understand by the term gender equality. So basically in Uganda today, we've attained gender equality to a certain degree. Basically in the parliament today, we have about 34.2% of the sitting in the parliament is by females, women. That is an achievement. And 75% of the country's plans and policies was based on gender equality. So basically, Uganda has tried to fight for the opportunities and fight against the challenges of gender equality today. So that's my brief understanding of gender equality in our country today. Of course, vis-a-vis other countries, as we shall go deeper into the discussion. I would love to hear more from the other panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ritah, for your opening statement. Let me move to the second panelist, and that is Sam. Samuel, it's time for you to give us your opening remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gender. As earlier mentioned, my name is Sam. So today's topic is actually so interesting. Have Ugandans attained gender equality? We shall give it a brief background and show you that long ago, women have been marginalized. It's been historical, it's been biological, ranging from their responsibilities of childbearing and maybe breastfeeding, basically being mothers. So it's been a long history of marginalization. We can look at the historical aspect where during those days, we have seen women have been marginalized to a greater extent because of cultural relativism, and people believe that men should be superior and stuff. We can also look at the religious aspect of it, where we can, to some extent, put a blame on religion, because we're from maybe telling you a woman was made out of your rib, that makes you feel superior. But we think that gender equality is such a big thing to attain, and we think that Uganda has made some strides towards eliminating inequalities, but then we are not yet there. I'll be glad to dive more into that discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam, for that. Let me move to the third panelist, and that is Gideon.
Thank you, Madam Gender, dear moderator for tonight. And it is awesome that our topic is about gender, and the moderator for tonight is also gender, which helps us at most to refer directly to some of the key points that I believe are factual in such a discussion. To my thinking, in relation to today's topic, which is, have Ugandans attained gender equality? My stand is we are right exactly where we should be for the meantime. And had it been some other generation still in this timing, it would have been in this right position. Because in reference to some of leaving the significant statistics like numbers of positions, etc., you can't realize that the economy basement of Uganda for now is already held by the women in society. These are the single mothers, and they are the ones that do the scholastic works that needs to sustain our economy. So in reference to the stand back, forth, and the status quo, I believe that gender equality is at the right point in this given generation as it is supposed to be. I would like to hear more from my dear fellow panelists, and I'm glad to be here, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Gideon, for that, for your opening remarks. Let me move to the fourth panelist, and that is Simon.
Thank you so much. I've gotten some problem with electricity. I beg to submit while my video is on, apparently. First of all, I want to start by correcting some of the statements, false statements that have been made. One, that the economy of Uganda is in the hands of the women. That is not true. And then two, where some stated that gender equality is too big to achieve. I think that's also not true. But I want to take it in line with where Ritah started, that you see, we are not where we are supposed to be, where I think we can actually go, and that's why I disagree with some that is too big to attain, but then we've moved somehow. When we are talking about the road to equality, I think we've moved, but then it's not in a good place. And then I think wherever we want to be, and that's where everybody is equal to the other, it's where we can all go. So I think that in its position should be corrected. Some of these things and the conversation of gender equality, when you go into depth in it, you will understand that some of these things are very crucial things that we cannot actually take away from the discussion of economic development. Because you see, the moment you have people who are unequal, then it means they are dependent. There is no single country that is going to develop economically when you have too many people depending on one source of income. You will notice that so many, I think Gideon said that there are so many single mothers. Well, I think in urban areas, you can make that argument, but Uganda is too big a country to assume that those single mothers are so many. I think there are so many families that equally depend on men, most especially in northern Uganda, and men are the only source of funding, feeding, and mention it. The only things women do is maybe domestic work and some other things, and they do not add anything to the family apart from depending on one person. And I think that in itself delays economic development. So when we are contextualizing this whole thing of gender equality, I want us to look at the broader picture, that is economic development and the things, the world we attain when we have women on the same level with men with equal opportunities. But then even with some of these things that Ritah has mentioned, these women in parliament, you notice that almost 30% that she talked about, these are people that come on affirmative action. We do not know if we remove those positions of affirmative action and gave these people equal opportunities to compete on the same direct tickets or slots, if we could have that big number of women in parliament, and then the people who are in school and all those things. I think we have strived to move, but in my data submissions, I will show you the things that are dragging us behind, and then how we can tackle those problems and achieve the gender equality. That some things is too big an issue or too big an achievement to get. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you to the panelists for your opening statements. So let me move back to Ritah. So Ritah, I would like you to take us through history as a country in terms of gender equality. Where did we come from and where are we at right now?
Okay, where have we come from is the question, and where are we going to, where we are at right now? Where we are at right now, we actually have made a stride, meagerly important stride. But of course, we go back behind to the customary ways of life. Back then, of course, women were seen as the inferior gender, and they were usually oppressed. They were pressed to the wall, basically for domestic work. That is how women were seen as. But today, well, from according to the International HR and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we've seen that women have their rights that have actually come up to advocate for women. So gender equality has gone on evolving from time to time, as we've seen. And when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, if I'm quoting it right, Sustainable Development Goal 4 or 5 talks about gender equality. And basically, okay, we are contextualizing in Uganda today. In Uganda today, we've seen that actually when gender equality was introduced in Uganda, Uganda was one of the first countries to take initiative, to put laws, to put policies, to imprint gender equality in Uganda, because obviously Uganda is also a culture-based state. Actually, worldwide, gender equality was not seen. Women were inferior worldwide. Countries like Iceland right now has about 89.2% ranked for gender equality. They're actually the best in the world today. So most of those countries have actually gone on evolving, the same as Uganda. Well, the problem with Uganda today is that we have a policy structure that we have failed to implement. Well, there is a problem with the policies. They are very good policies because, as I noted, that 75% of the policies that were structured in the legislature, in the constitution itself, was structured for women. They were actually advocating for their rights. Yeah, I wouldn't want to center around women because actually of late, we've failed to balance both of them, because, okay, we're on a scale, but we failed to balance both the women and the men. So that's the problem in Uganda today. And there are issues that we are focusing on and ignoring the rest. When it comes to reproductive health, when it comes to the labor market, entrepreneurship today in Uganda right now, women have still failed to grow. Women are still underlooked. When a woman steps into a business firm to start her own business, as the woman and she's coming up with her own project, they are still underlooked, they are still drained. But my opinion and my state of view is that men are also trained to advocate for the growth of gender equality, because we've seen from time beyond that men were seen as the superior race, yes, but right now women are also being brought onto the platform. But what I would put my opinion on, what I would base my opinion on, is that men and women hold each other's hands. If all of, as I liked what Simon talked about, that about one race depending on the other, looking at the economic bit of it, because basically gender inequality affects economies, because it's seen that about $1,619 per person is like dollars is deprived in the economy because of gender inequality. So my stand and my opinion in this discussion today is that we as people in the society create an environment where men are not also marginalized and women are not also marginalized. Of course, as the inferior race, we shall be talking about women mostly, but there is a bit of men that is also inferiorized. So we also need to look at that. So basically, today, there is a stride, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to gender equality because of the culture, the cultural norms, the society itself, very many societal factors. Yeah, we shall dive into that as we go on in a discussion. Back to you, Gender.
Okay, thank you so much, Ritah, for that. So let me move to the next panelist, and that is Sam, and bring him into the discussion. So, Sam, my question to you is that what are the different initiatives, which includes policies and laws that government of Uganda has put in place to ensure that we achieve gender equality?
Yeah, thank you so much, Gender. First of all, I beg to answer Simon. I was showing you how we have actually made considerable strides towards filling that gap. But I was saying gender equality is actually a very big thing to achieve, very too big, because I can show you inherent limitations by the fact that we are a developing country. Let us look at the health system, which is in Uganda. Let us look about the tax injustices. Women are actually in the agricultural sector, but there is too much tax injustices that still impede women from joining the mainstream economy. So given the fact that we have inherent limitations, as of now, by the virtue of being a developing country, it's actually going to be a very big thing to achieve an SDG which is far-fetched, because even the best one in the world is not 100%, because we see that inherent limitations, maybe because of the biological aspects and because the nature of our economies is actually different. Back to the question you have actually asked, before I embark on the question, I can also answer Simon about women representation. Maybe people put so much focus on maybe people in parliament and what, but I have to clearly show you that these women, on every leadership structure, there is a group of women. For example, political parties have the Women's League. We go to local government, they have their women's team. Political parties have programs that are meant to enhance women. So we think that we have actually made some considerable strides, but it's far-fetched to achieve gender equality 100%. So due to those reasons, I think, Simon, you might need to respond to me, but I think your argument is far-fetched. Back to the question you're asking, the different initiatives, I can show you the legal framework. For example, the Land Act, which was 1998, that protects women's rights to access to land, because due to cultural norms and cultural relativism, we have seen that women had no access to land. Women were not allowed to own property. But this Land Act was actually rejuvenated to make sure that women also access land. This land is actually used as collateral for many different things if we are to enhance entrepreneurship. So that is one of the greatest initiatives that government had to put up in order to protect women's rights. Is also the Local Government Act. The Local Government Act establishes different leadership structures of women at every level. For example, parish level, they go to the sub-county level and the district level. So we think that this is also something that the government has actually contributed to enhance the gender inequalities that have been prevailing all over the country. I can also show you that the government has tried as much as possible to eliminate gender-based violence. For example, criminalizing gender-based violence, whereas it was in areas, maybe domestic violence was just a civil matter that would be solved by the two. But now at least government has taken strides that gender-based violence is actually some of the criminal offenses in this country, and you're taken over by the DPP. Why it was actually hard to prosecute some individuals is the legal system was really, really so rigid that people used to not access justice in time. But still, on that issue, I think we still have some problems. For example, I've seen family courts at magistrates' courts are still struggling with access to resources and staffing. And when you go to higher courts, there is inadequate staffing that even if someone pursues this matter, maybe for gender-based violence to the core, it still faces some delay, and which I believe delays justice is denied justice. So those are some of the loopholes in the law that maybe the government should act on. I can also show you that we have some level of maybe bad leadership. I would attribute it to that, because a couple of years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, the Minister of Education, 1 or 2 years ago, the Minister of Education and even the President, these people came through and preached that we are going to provide sanitary pads to girls. And these sanitary pads are to ensure that girls get confidence of accessing school and avoiding shame in public because of the menstrual hygiene problems that make the thing discriminatory. But I would say that this was, to some extent, an attribute of maybe having a bad government, because this promise was made, but then 1 or 2 years down the road, we have never seen anything coming. And when the person was questioned on the promises she made, she was like, there are no resources. But we see that these resources are channeled to very bogus activities, to say, because some activities are actually less important than that critical issue that would solve such inequalities. So I will be showing you how the government has actually made a stride, and some of the challenges, like maybe cultural relativism, that is impeding government from achieving a considerable stride to reach the far-fetched gender equality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam, for that submission on the different policies and the legal framework that the government of Uganda has put in place to ensure that there is gender equality. Let me move to Gideon. So Gideon, my question to you is one that is very direct. So would you say that the government has done enough to ensure that we achieve gender equality in this country?
Thank you, dear moderator. Before I tap into your question of, has the government done enough to tackle into the gender question, I would like to reassure my finance specialist, a student pursuing a bachelor's of business administration, Mr. Simon. Simon, I would like to reaffirm to you, to maybe remind you that the economy of any given country is not directly defined by the masterpieces, investors, all the entrepreneurs in that country, but rather the casual workers and those people that deal basically in the end user that sell commodities to the end users. Those are supposed to be what we should call the petty workers. And if you look into the statistics, these are brought in by the numbers of a given gender, the population of the given gender. Because if it is in ratio broken down into ratios, an entrepreneur in 10 is supposed to be 1. In order to curb economic success of that given society. So if you look at the micro organizations that are upholding the economy for now, you realize that most of them are under leadership of women, and most of them are driven by the women that we're having here at stake. Like, for example, go through the multiple numerous markets within Uganda, all through. You realize that the ratio of women to men that are owning stocks and doing booming business within those markets, realize that maybe there a ratio of 2 to 20, I should say, respective of men to women. So that gives you an insight of the significance of the struggle and the results that we have got from the advocacy of we trying to ensure that women can do what man can do. So they are proving it right, and I believe that for this stake, we are upholding right what we should be having. And as I re-emphasized last time, that had it been some other generation and it is not our generation, still the statistics would be the same to happen in gender equality. So back to the question of, has the government done enough? Some of the policies that the government has preached out and has tried to bring out, to emphasize in order to strengthen women, they have hoped to strengthen their sake and to balance, basically, to preach out the inferiority of women, that women cannot do that and women can also do this. I'm telling you, there are a lot of hurdles that we have been facing. The mere fact that a chapter preaching for gender equality was just captioned or adopted in the United Nations chapter just 74 years ago. That was in December the 10th in 1948. That is when the policy of gender equality was captioned in the human rights stake in the UN chapter, or I should say constitution. So it shows that we cannot take it. It's not a blink of an eye fight that we shall win on, as some says. We have to go through a lot of hurdles because women inferiority has been, first of all, influenced by a number of factors. It has been influenced by culture, patronage. It has been influenced by the religion. It has been influenced by the political biases, etc. So I cannot blame the government for failing here or there, but I can applaud that at least they have taken a step. It is at this generation, I should say, this era, that we are having almost all of the arms that govern our nation being led by almost women. It is a ratio of 3-2. We're having a prime minister, she's a she. We're having a speaker, that is a she. We're having a vice president, that is a she, etc., to mention but a few. These are principal people that are supposed to inspire more women to engage into what we should say and we should call gender equality. The only problem that we are not tackling right for now is we are now prioritizing what shouldn't be prioritized. We are teaching our women to focus not on what should bring equality on table, but rather what should make them more superior. Now they want to test the superiority of them being women. And a lot of people are misquoting the word feminist. Feminism, by the way, it should be, all a feminist should be anyone who recognizes the equality and full humanity of both women and men. But because of biases and because of maybe reference to the background and maybe the inferiority complex that has been handed to them, they're now trying to prove that no, we can surpass men. We can do this better than men, which we shouldn't be the status quo. Because the more such fights are upheld, you come to realize that a number of men now are neglecting what they should do in order to inspire the women, or what they should do in order to obtain the dignity of womanhood and maybe manhood. That is why when families, when feminists, I should say, cry out loud in families, you realize that they end up becoming single mothers, they end up building families of one parent, etc. And all those, I believe, me as one, is a result of the too much pressure onto trying to portray the she gender as a superior gender to the he gender, which shouldn't be policy. Government, as I can reaffirm, that a number of policies have been made because in 1997, it is when the national gender policy was legitimatized in addressing issues of gender. And this has been a success to my thinking. A number of policies, a number of arms have come through by government to emphasize the need to take all stakes at equal levels. And a number of conferences have been upheld, a number of symposiums, a number of programs that would empower both men and women have been upheld by the government. And it should be now a stake of we that have received enough, I should say. We have received enough because it's an exposed era that we are living in. Everything is surely exposed and everything is at your reception if you're willing to uphold it. women have been granted this opportunity, and if at all they take the sake and due diligence of realizing their capacity and not trying to use that capacity in order to overshadow the other gender equality, I find it a home to be in a few decades.
Okay, thank you so much, Gideon. So Gideon, in a nutshell, you're saying that the government of Uganda has done enough to ensure that there is gender equality.
No. Do not misquote me. I've not said that it has done enough, but I've said it has done for now what it should have, what it should do. And yes, we are not at 100%, but if we score a 60, I would believe that we are far away from where we were.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Gideon, for that. Let me move to Simon. Simon, I know you have a number of questions to respond to, so I'll let you respond to the different issues that have come up from the other panelists, and then I will ask you a question. So I'll give you 2 minutes to give a response.
Thank you so much. Some of the things that kept on sprouting were the questions, and maybe I need to make clarifications. First of all, I want to start by stating that gender equality is a state of equal access to resources and opportunities regardless of gender, and that includes economic participation and decision-making. What is the goal then? The goal is gender equality is to have equal rights, conditions, and opportunities, and the power to shape and the power to give girls, men, women, boys, the power to shape their own lives and contribute to development of society. I've stated that to respond to Samuel, that you see, I don't think this is too big an issue to achieve, because in some states that you see some of these things are unattainable, that we cannot give people, the men and women, the girls and the boys, equal opportunities to shape their future. If that is too difficult to achieve, then maybe some has a point. And then two, when Gideon says that the end users, the retailers, I stated that, you see, when you talk about urban areas, then it might be true that women are participating more because they are the people we see in the markets. But you see, 70% of the economy is agriculture, subsistence farming that is done in the villages. That contributes the least to our economic development. It's the industry, trade and services of which women are participating in few numbers, because he's going to say that, you see, in town, the people we see in these shops are women, yes, but you see, that does not include, that does not tantamount to the biggest percentage. So it is not true when you say the economy of the country is basically run by women. I think most of these people who are in villages practicing subsistence farming, where they farm for eating and then they sell the surplus, those are the people that we are talking about. That's the majority of the people. So you cannot possibly say that they're the ones running the economy. So I think that is factually wrong. And then about the what someone calls participation in politics, the youth, the female wings that we have in political parties, how influential are they is the question. But I believe with Samuel, the only thing we have to agree on that this is not too difficult to achieve. Equal opportunities and having people contribute equally to the development of the society is not something too big to achieve if we touch the right buttons, that I'm going to tell you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simon, for the response. But before I let you go, if you're to score Uganda in terms of its achievement of gender equality, what percentage would you give us out of 100?
Out of 100? 40.
Yeah.
40.
Okay. Okay, Simon would give us 40. So Simon, what are the gaps in the fight for gender equality that is preventing us from reaching 100%?
First of all, I think it's someone who calls government bad government. But I think even before you go to government, there is an issue of mindset that is majorly not just Uganda, but Africa. It is draining us behind and preventing most of us from getting the 100% that we want for gender equality. You see, we've had discussions about some of the practices that are performed against women, the FGM, among others, but there are things that I think are just symbolic, but then we've not put in so much energy to eradicate those as we move towards gender equality. When you say let all the people be equal to ease equal access to opportunities and resources, then we are not supposed to put any gender above the other. Practices like dowry, paying of dowry, are things that are small on the outlook, but then the in-depth problem within that is very big. When you have a female child, whenever they are born, parents are look at them as commodities. In finance, we have what we call a bill of exchange. This is a document that you can take anywhere to bank. It is a document that signifies later payment in everything, and it is used in foreign trade, where somebody promises to pay you later, but you can use that document to solicit for funding from the bank because it's evidence of somebody giving you money on a later date. So men, our fathers, and even the family members see girls as something like a bill of exchange, that anytime when you get a baby girl, I'll get dowry from this person in the later future. And they do not see the need to take these people to school, because the difference is that this one is a human being and something else is an animal or an object that can be sold off at any time for them to get money. The moment you deny these people equal opportunities like education, simply because you think at some particular point they have to go and be submissive to a man, then you're denying them the opportunities that they so need. And we know how important education is. So these mindset things, dowry, the symbolism that you have to get married at some particular point, that a girl is sugar, you're born and then they see a cow that is seated there. Those are the things. And then two, the poverty levels. One of the challenges that we have as African countries is that we are too poor. Now, when they see girls as what I prefer to call a bill of exchange, that at some particular point they can get money from them and these people are poor, they won't see the need to take them to school. That's one. And then two, when it gets to the worst and they really do not have money, they won't see the need of keeping them around way too long. So at age of 15, for as long as they get to puberty, they will try to put them off and then get money out of them. So poverty is also another thing. And I think our government has not been intentional enough in fighting poverty because they do not see some of these things. These problems are inherent. When you want to solve the problems, you start from the root cause. And sometimes the root cause is something way too different from the things we know. One, the thing I stated is mindset, that is putting us behind the cultural practices, and this is part of dowry. And you know, still to tell you about mindset, if you had a bill brought to Parliament today to ban dowry because it is in some way objectifying women and making them something like commodity, you would see women come out and say, you don't even tamper with culture. This is culture. You see, we are supposed to be like this. And this is the mindset we're talking about. But if we see all the children as the same, that they deserve to go to school and be better people and share resources, then we can move forward. But this mindset is putting us behind. And then two, the poverty levels. I think government should be intentional in fighting poverty, because who doesn't want their child to be good? Because in Uganda, we have the role models, they've set them. We've had, I think, almost, and I say this with care, almost both the leaders of the parliament in these past two terms, Rebecca Kadaga, the Right Honorable, and then Right Honorable Anita Among, the Vice President, we had the Vice President Special Zakazi. We've had role models. Who doesn't want their daughter to be like Anita Among? Who? But you see, they are poor. They do not know, they do not even have the money to take them to school. So sometimes they see them and say, yeah, I want her to be, but you see, I have money in there and I don't even have money to take care of them. And you see, it's like raising a cow. At some particular point, you won't see a need to take a cow to school, because at some point you're going to put them off. If you could only see boys and girls the same way and never put even if you're to talk about gender-based violence and all this primacy of men, if I have to come to your place and pay you and pay your parents to have you at my place, then what is stopping you from being my subordinate? That is not the equality that we want. So I think we have to change mindset, and then two, look at the issue of poverty as one of the root causes of the things we see today. And the end goal should be economic development. And that's why I want to take this debate. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Simon, just a moment before I bring Ritah back into the discussion, I would like to ask you one more question based on your submission. So, according to you, boys and girls should be treated the same way. Now, my question to you is, if we shift this to men and women, do you think that it is time to do away with affirmative action for women and then treat all women and men the same without pushing for affirmative action?
Affirmative action is meant to somewhat make the ground level for everybody. I think when you look at the status quo, it would be simplistic to assume that we are at a stage where men and women can equally compete for opportunities. I've told you some of these things. I've been in an election in my area. We had the Honorable Patricia Magara contesting on a direct male seat, a direct seat with some other men. And then what people used to say and tell female people that, you see, this is a position for men. So for as long as we still have mindset that is like that, I don't think we can have affirmative action scrapped off, because it somewhat makes the ground level for everybody.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Let me move to Ritah. So, Ritah, I would like to get your opinion on the issue of affirmative action, which is embedded in the Constitution, and then it's now its aspects are seen in the different aspects, like in the laws in the different other laws of Uganda, policies, and everything. Do you think that Uganda as a country has reached a stage where we can do away with affirmative action and treat men and women the same way?
Well, my first statement will be a quote from Chimamanda Ngozi's book, "We Should All Be Feminists." What matters more is our attitude and mindset. Now, yes, I support affirmative action, but we can't do away with it. Society, first of all, has an ideology and mindset that men are superior, that men are the better race, that men are the more educated race, that men are the rulers, basically. That is it. So if we delete affirmative action, then there wouldn't be a level, like a leveling ground for women, because what we are looking at is putting them at the same level. You know, Uganda has very many policies have been put in place, but the system has just failed to implement them. And the system also can't implement them to the dot because of very many factors. Simon talked about poverty, okay, what he didn't talk about maybe was the corruption rate. There is a lot of corruption in the country. Very many of these resources stop in the middle of the pipeline. So they don't actually reach where they're supposed to go. That is a big problem. And again, I'd like to go back to the point that Gideon had raised. He had talked about, okay, Simon built on it, something like that, and he said that agriculture is the backbone of this country. Well, something disheartening that I think Gideon didn't know is that very many, despite the fact that laws have come in place to say that that women have the right to own land, but when you go back to the rural areas, women actually aren't given those rights. Land is snatched from them, it's grabbed from them. They actually do not own land, and yet women can actually be a productive race to the nation itself. Okay, contextualizing in Uganda and Africa as a whole, women can be like a great milestone to the achievements of the country, but they are denied those rights. They're denied to own land. We haven't fully embraced it. That is why the notion comes in of for the Women's Day in March, break the bias. There is a lot of bias in the society today. So you can't tell me that I cannot support putting away the notion of affirmative action, because it actually encourages us to bring a level, a balanced level to both these people, because they are all humans. If society still believes that men are up there, so if we put women somewhere up there and keep pushing them up there, then we can actually have an equal ground. We can actually have equal opportunities for both. People would actually embrace the fact that a woman can do what a man can also do. Now, recently, I'll give an example. Recently, I was moving back home, and a woman, she was a conductress. So as the passengers kept getting inside the taxi, one of the men mentioned, and they were like, okay, I'll translate it into English. And he said that she's using a lot of energy. Yeah, waga waga, something like that. Yeah, waga waga zenamani, but with time, she will lose the energy. With time, she cannot manage because she's a woman. You get it? So society still has a bias towards women. So affirmative action can't actually be deleted, because it will actually help with changing the ideologies and mindsets of people. Because trust me, all these structures have been put in place, laws have been put in place, but apart from the iniquities that have made us fail to clearly implement them, because men are part of the structure. Like, men are part of the structure, they are part of the system. But if their mindsets are still infringed to a woman as an inferior being, then they would look at all these advocacies, they would look at all these laws in place as useless. So back to what Chimanda says, what matters most is our mindset and our attitude.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, Ritah, for that. Before I let you go, Ritah, and I move to the next panelist, I have another question for you. So, women, due to affirmative action, have been handed over several opportunities. For example, we have the woman MP position. We have the 1.5% when you're joining the university. We have women representation at all levels, right from LC1. Now, my question to you is, with women in position of authority, why is it that we still have we still have a... Okay, so Ritah, my question to you is, we have women at positions of authority, and some of this was due to the affirmative action that is embedded in the Constitution and other laws. So my question is, why is it that we still have not achieved gender equality despite affirmative action and despite having women in positions of authority?
Well, first of all, affirmative action has been based in the urban areas, and we've forgotten the rural areas. But the rural girl child is actually the one that is affected more. All these things come along, affirmative action has come along, women are leaders, yes, women are coming onto the platform, but back down there in the rural areas with the high rates of illiteracy, women are still underlooked. So actually, affirmative action has not yet reached down there. It hasn't yet reached the base. We still have a problem down there. And another thing is that, back to what I was talking about, society. If society cannot embrace a woman coming forth and speaking to them, we know there's a notion that as someone speaks, as the people whom you speak to, and it just goes over and passes their ear. So that is basically it. If the person standing, if I am a man, let's say, and the person standing in front of me is a woman, and I basically have it imprinted in my brain that I am the stronger sex and she's the weaker sex, then I cannot listen to her. So it is very hard for society to actually embrace and change and move in line to the progress that we want to see in gender equality, because their ideology is different. I know she's weak. Why would I listen to her? So apart from coming up with only affirmative action, and making them leaders, the 1.5 added onto the education scheme as they come into the university. We should go back to the grassroots. We should go back to the plant itself. What did you plant? What did you implant in the people? Culture already implanted and drew a picture in them that she's inferior. Even if she's up there's nothing that she can do. Even if she's up there's nothing that she can change. So it is only if we change the mindsets of people, we change the mindsets of the people in the society, and the woman stands up there and speaks, that there will be action. Actually, there would be great action, because very many of these women come with with beautiful initiatives. They come with beautiful manifestos, but she will help her manifesto but fail to put it in line because the society does not believe in women. The society does not believe that a woman can do something. So it's only until the society is leveled, it is straightened up, mindset, ideology, that actually very many women will be encouraged. Very many women will be pulled up by their mates and the men themselves. So basically, that's my.
Okay, thank you so much, Ritah. Let me bring Sam into the discussion. So Sam, I have basically two questions for you, but I would like to start with the one on affirmative action. I would like to know your thoughts on affirmative action.
Yeah, thank you, Gender. First of all, before I embark on affirmative action, it would be maybe a definitional challenge, me and Simon, because I'm going to give two examples where I can actually show you that there are inherent limitations. At the 7-second graduation, there was one doctorate of laws, and which was backed by the first woman ever. So why do you think that doctorate was only achieved by one woman, yet many women have actually access to such things, to such opportunities of getting masters and doctorates? I want to show you that it is like a natural stereotype that these women have too many responsibilities and end up being busy, even though they have access to opportunities, but then there are inherent limitations that don't make them take those opportunities. A second example would be if me and some other married woman, we two were offered a scholarship, maybe to go to the US and pursue some higher education. There are higher chances that the woman will turn down the offer because this woman has to carry on with parenthood. Whereas me, because my biological aspect does not maybe impose too much duty on maybe childbearing and child caring, then there's higher chances that I will go. That's why it's actually so much impossible to achieve gender equality to 100%. So I think that would best answer Simon, if at all he has a point and maybe some kind of definition that he gave. My submission about affirmative action, it still goes back to maybe the biological limitations and some of the natural stereotypes that are imposed on women. Because, for example, if you defy all odds as a woman that, well, I'm actually going to concentrate on my career and neglect marriage, then you're seen by society as being irresponsible. So such limitations actually are also applied to this affirmative action. We have seen 1.5 weights added to girls, but then it's actually good that maybe here at MUBS, more girls graduated than boys and performed excellently. But let us see how many girls actually going for masters, maybe at the 7th, 4th graduation, how many of those ones will actually graduate with a master's degree? You'll actually be disappointed that you'll find that it has become the reverse, that men have actually gone there and these women have settled for a degree. Why? Because they have limitations, maybe biological. We can examine, for example, if a man can marry at 35 years, but it is actually so hard for a woman to wait and settle at 35 because there are higher chances that this person is actually not going to get married. and that's what society expects. So such inherent limitations, despite government efforts of affirmative action, would actually not yield. The biggest question was, should we actually scrap off this affirmative action and let these people pray on a leveled ground? But they are saying that equals should be treated equally and unequals equally. Women have been marginalized for long, ranging from the biblical times, ranging from the kingdom types. People have an argument that maybe kneeling down for a man when you're greeting among the Uganda culture is demeaning, whereas men don't do that. So such cultural norms have actually oppressed women for long. So I believe that we haven't reached a level where we can actually say that, well, let us eliminate all this and actually settle that these women should come on merit and should go direct. Whereas it is actually essential that these things shouldn't be scrapped. But I think there are loopholes. The loopholes are about how these affirmative action seats have actually been allocated. I was in a district where the woman MP went to parliament. I think it is now about 40 years. This person has actually been there for 40 years. And you actually wonder if this person is giving access, is giving other girls and other women opportunity to access these seats. I think for affirmative action to work so properly, I think there have to be some reforms that these women, despite coming on affirmative action, should have maybe term limits. You come maybe for 2 terms, you change impact around your society. Definitely you can't change the whole district and leave some other person to come. Government should also emphasize, because being a woman MP, these people don't have a special fund that you are an affirmative action state, so you have this special fund to go and approve women in your area. No, these people get the same salary as their male counterparts who came and are representing constituencies. These people, these women, don't have any other access to resources that would change the whole district. So in the end, it's actually losing the whole meaning of being affirmative because there is further oppression. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, for that. I think you answered my second question as well in your submission, because I was going to ask you about what you think about the women who have gone into parliament on affirmative action and are still there. Are we still assuming that they are still being empowered? Okay, let me move on to Gideon. So Gideon, what then should we do as a country so that we are able to fully achieve gender equality?
Thank you, dear moderator, again. First of all, what we should do as a country in order to achieve gender equality. First of all, we have to be true and realize the reality that we have at stake. We should define what exactly our focus should be and what exactly we would wish to deliver. Because equality in relation to Sam, in relation to Simon, and at most in relation to Mirembe, equality we should broadly put a parameter between equality and equity. We know that there are things that men can do that women cannot do. And there are specific things that women can do and men can do. One of the prominent speakers I can quote, scholars, anonymous, I quote, says that women have a special and unique composition in order to do not what man can do, but rather what man fails out to do. So, in relation to equity and equality, you realize that there are given facts that we cannot uphold up to. Like if you say that if at all a man can lay 1,000 bricks, so should a woman do the same stake in order to achieve equality at stake. Nature does not proceed with that. It is even logical that legitimately, if a case is filed in maybe court, I should say, like for divorce, etc., that at most times custody is penalty to the man rather than the woman. Why? Because we believe that we as women as a whole, as a gender, there are specific factors that we should not light off bright light to them, but rather we should under them under the rightful sense of meaning in order to achieve equity rather than equality. I would say that we cannot blame more of maybe customs. We cannot blame more of maybe religious practices, etc. That at some point are a fact in promoting inequality, but rather factualize on how and what exactly we should do in order to see that we achieve equity rather than equality. For example, I heard Simon arguing out that maybe dowry should be no more in order for us to set a ground for equality. But I believe that in customs, dowry is not it's not an act of selling off a woman, but rather an act of appreciation that if I told you to bear fruits for me, because we do all believe that women are producers, and we believe that these bear fruits are some of the prestigious facts that women do aspire to in order to go into a woman. So these are facts that are not bringing to maybe for feminists and maybe some other micro gender equality advocates do believe that these are forms of creating inequality, but rather these are facts that are put at stake to just embrace true facts about life, true facts like equating to maybe I can give my woman a token, I can give my parent a token. This should be in same line. These are not points that we should strategize on or put our key point. So, as I earlier told you, we all as a country should realize what a woman can do and realize what a man can do. And in equity, we give ground on how woman can ably do something that man has done, rather than setting them a challenge that please prove us that you can do what man has done. In equity, if it is a ground level, maybe give a man to be on a two-stepper and maybe give a woman a four-stepper. By that, you are defining that, yes, even if some natural happenings can hinder a woman from doing this, but still with assistance from the other gender, a woman can also achieve the other. Let us not preach more of bias, that if at all you have not delivered this, I will not deliver this, but rather find ways of harmonizing on how can I help a woman to also realize what she has failed to realize, or how can I help a man realize what me as a woman has failed to realize. You realize that some of the key points that women fell into and are suffering most is emotional tolerance. So if I told you would love me to react to some happenings in the same way as a woman, then it would be a disadvantage to the woman, because naturally their emotional speed and their uphold is not the same as man. So if you are fighting for equality, that if at all I've done you this, you should do this, or if at all I've done this, you should do this, it will give a gap that we cannot fulfill. Yes, we are all fighting for equality. We are fighting that the opportunities given at hand to a given gender are the same opportunities that are given to the other gender. But let it be a fact that there are given specifics that we cannot tolerate on the same weighing scale. So as I told you in my earlier speech, that there are a lot of challenges that are bringing to this. But if at all we take a step on step, rather than advocate for zero should be zero, we should move from 100 to 0, then we are going to mess up. We are going to find families where no one will be able to listen to the other because of the complex of maybe fighting for my voice to be heard as the other one should also be heard. For harmony, I believe we all as a country should take our stand to realize the different capability of our genders and influence those facts in order to create equity rather than equality.
Okay, thank you, Gideon, for that. Let me move to Simon. So, Simon, my last question to you for today is that what more can the government do on top of what the government has done already? What more can it do to ensure that as a county, we are able to achieve gender equality at 100%? Because I know earlier you scored us at 40%. So what more can the government do to achieve Simon's 100%?
I think I'm going to give an answer that will as well give rebuttal to what Gideon has been saying. But let me first answer to some of his arguments directly before I even give my arguments. When we say let everybody have equal opportunities to resources and opportunities, we are not necessarily saying that if a man can make 1,000 bricks, then a woman should also make another 1,000 bricks. But what we are saying is, if it's the brick industry, can men and women who can do that fairly compete in that industry? You get that? That is the question that we are saying, that let those opportunities be open to everybody. If you can't do it, go for it. If you can't, leave it. But there shouldn't be anything that is off limits for females. First of all, the question was about what more can government do? And I'll start by stating that, you see, to give a background, the government has done something. You can actually, from the example I've given, you can notice that there is no space, there is no particular occupation, there is no particular resource or anything that cannot be accessed by both the women and men. But the question is, what is stopping the women from going for those opportunities? And that is what some stated, that you see, women can go for this, but then they're not going for that. You see that women can graduate, but they're not going to go for masters. And you see, I've wanted to drop this argument of mindset until I listen to both Sam and Gideon. These are people who need mindset change programs. They need them the most. And this is what I think government can do for now. To have this society educated about how they can change the way they think and perceive things. Dowry can never be a token of appreciation. It can't. Because you see, appreciation for what? I heard Gideon say that fruits that they bear. Where do these fruits come from? That is a question. That's a debate for another day. But we both know they do not necessarily come from the woman. They come from the combination of the man and the woman. So you cannot possibly make that argument that you are paying you because you're going to give birth to kids. We are all the same. We are supposed to be equal, and the dowry puts one gender above the other. When somebody comes and gives this token of appreciation in the guise of buying you, they are going to feel entitled to whatever you do. The moment you get married, you stop being yourself. Simply, you cannot even go to do a doctorate because your husband may not agree with it, because you have responsibilities back home. A man paid his money, now you want to go and study, you're not going to be there for him. Those are some of the things that you need to change. So I think the government should invest a lot in mindset change programs to have the society know that actually there are so much bigger opportunities when women do some of the things that they fear to do. We need these mindset change opportunities for both Gideon and Samuel to change the way they perceive some of the things and the arguments that they make. We've all heard them. And I think from this discussion, I can learn that we need mindset change so much for these people to know that, yes, these opportunities are available. Women can compete for them, but they do not go there because they've been told you cannot go there. or you shouldn't even go there. There was a story that they used to say that an elephant, a young one, I don't know how they're called, young elephants, was tied on a tree, a small tree. And then it grew up knowing that this is where I am and I cannot move to any other place. Even when it became big to the capacity of pulling the tree out of the ground to move, it could not do it because it had been taught that this is where you're supposed to be static. Even when they're given the opportunities, they do not know of a life where they can move away from where they are because they've been engineered and hardwired to think that's all they can do. I think mindset change is one thing that we can do to change and achieve 100% gender equality. And then two, goes back to the arguments that I made, poverty. We should give people access to money, economic growth to the extent that they will not need to trade off their girls. They won't need these tokens of appreciation, the way Gideon loves to call them, to sell off their girls. They will have enough money to send their girls to school because fundamentally to compete fairly on any other ground, you got to notice that you have to be educated enough. When we do not have the same number of girls enrolling for senior one as those that sat for P7, then we have a problem. Where are the others going? The more you get educated is the more you can compete fairly for opportunities. So I think government should embark on eradicating poverty, invest money intentionally, and do away with the corruption that Mirembe talked about, and then we can have people transform themselves. The more you get the middle income, when you get to the middle income sector, some of the things will go as they came. Because you see, some of those countries that have achieved what we want to have, you will notice there are countries where people are economically developed. The way you see things changes when you start to get money. But the moment we still objectify women, and then we have people who want to get money, who are very poor, who do not have the next meal, they're going to put away the kids first because they cannot feed them, and then two, because they look at them as a bill of exchange that can be done away anytime that they need money. So mindset change programs, and then two, be intentional and invest a lot intentionally in eradicating poverty, and you will have moved a very big step towards gender equality. Back to you, Miss Jen.
Thank you so much, Simon, for your submission. We have come to the end of our debate for today. I would like to extend my gratitude to all the panelists who spared time to do research and to debate and unpack this topic for us today. I would like to thank you. Today we had 4 panelists from Makerere University Business School. We had Ms. Mirembe Ritah, Niringiye Sam, Kalema Gideon Joseph, and Luswata Simon. Thank you so much for being very articulate and for helping us unpack this topic for today. Our topic for today has been, have Ugandans attained gender equality? What are the opportunities and challenges for gender equality in Uganda? And our debate, that is the inter-university debate, is brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance, that is CCG, and Civic Space TV. So today we have held the internal debates for Makerere University Business School, and this is the last debate for this round, and that is the quarterfinals round. So we will be meeting the universities in a face-to-face competition as they battle it out, and the prize, the ultimate prize, is the finals to see which university will take the trophy. From me, Lake Gender Fancy, your moderator, and from the Civic Space TV team and Center for Constitutional Governance and the panelists, we would like to say bye and see you again next time.